3:17 a.m., December 7, 1944, the hill falls silent here standing on the frozen crest of Hill 400, Hürtgen Forest, Germany. The air smells of pine needles, curdite, and blood frozen black on the snow. It is so cold that breath turns to ice on your eyelashes the instant it leaves your mouth. Below you, the entire 2nd Ranger Battalion, the proud survivors of Point du Hoc, is gone, not dead, or scattered. 2 days of relentless shelling from 170mm German guns have torn the hilltop into a moonscape of shattered trees and craters filled with American bodies. The last radio call from Captain Morton to battalion came 20 minutes ago. We're down to 8 men, maybe less. They're coming up the north slope again. Then static. Now, only 1 man is still moving inside the main observation bunker, a concrete box no larger than a living room, half its roof blown away. Technical Sergeant Frank Viakic, 24 years old, from Cicero, Illinois, wipes blood from his eyes and drags the last working Browning automatic rifle to the firing slit. His hands are raw meat inside frozen gloves. He has 3 drums of .3006 left. 2 captured Panzerfausts lean against the wall like strange crutches, and somewhere out there in the darkness, the 116th Panzer Division, fresh greyhounds with white camouflage and screaming officers, is forming for another assault. Frank checks the bar one last time, whispers something no microphone will ever catch, and waits. The silence is worse than the first wave. Gray shadows in the snow. 3:42 a.m. The forest explodes. A German flare arcs high above the treetops, turns night into sickly green daylight, and hangs there like a dying moon. In its glow you see them, the companies of the 156th Panzer Grenadier Regiment, moving fast up the north slope in staggered lines, white camouflage smocks making them look like ghosts rising from the snow. MG-42s chatter from the tree line, stitching the bunker's concrete with orange sparks. Frank Viakic drops flat as bullets scream through the firing slit and ricochet off the back wall. He waits until the flare burns out and darkness swallows the hill again. Then he rises, calm as Sunday morning, and squeezes the bar's trigger. The first burst is only 10 rounds, but it's perfectly placed. The lead German platoon leader, a tall Hauptmann waving a Luger, folds in half and tumbles backward down the slope, taking 3 men with him. Panic ripples through the assault line. Frank shifts the muzzle 6 inches left, fires again. Another officer drops. The attack stalls 20 yards from the wire. Somewhere out there a whistle shrills in fury. The Germans regroup, spread wider, and come again, this time crawling on their bellies through the frozen crust. Frank lets them get within 15 yards, close enough to see the frost on their eyelashes, close enough to smell their fear. He lifts the first Panzerfaust. The backblast fills the tiny bunker with fire and choking smoke. The warhead streaks out like an angry comet and detonates right in the middle of the crawling wave. Bodies cartwheel through the air. Screams echo off the naked trees. For 30 seconds the hill is quiet again, except for the ringing in Frank's ears and the soft whimpering of wounded men out in the dark. He reloads the bar with shaking fingers and whispers to no one, "Come on, you bastards. I got all night." But the Germans have an entire regiment, and Frank is only one man still fighting. 6:12 a.m. The sky over the Hürtgen turns the color of a fresh bruise. Snow starts falling again. Thick silent flakes that drink sound and blood alike. Frank Viakic hasn't slept, hasn't eaten, hasn't moved more than 10 feet in 3 hours. His world is now the size of that ruined bunker, a bar with half a drum, 1 last Panzerfaust, a crate of German potato masher grenades, and a growing pile of empty brass that clinks under his boots like spent coins. The Germans know exactly how many Americans are left in Hill 400. They know because they've been counting bodies all night. 0 prisoners, 0 retreat. Just 1 set of boot prints circling the bunker roof whenever Frank climbs up to spot for artillery or drag another wounded ranger inside the doorway where at least they won't freeze. At 6:12 the 5th assault begins, this time led by Panther tanks of the 116th Panzer's attached battalion. Their long 75mm guns elevate, searching for the tiny concrete pimple on top of the hill. The first shell hits 10 yards short, showering the bunker with frozen earth and pine splinters. The second tears the observation periscope clean off its mount. Frank laughs, actually laughs, a cracked, exhausted sound, because now the Germans are scared enough to waste tank shells on 1 sergeant. He crawls to the doorway, peers through the swirling snow, and spots movement on the eastern firebreak. A self-propelled martyr trying to work around the flank. Range, maybe 200 yards. He has 1 Panzerfaust left. Frank kisses the warhead like it's a girlfriend he'll never see again, rests the tube on the shattered doorframe, and waits for the martyr to cross the clearing. The driver obliges. The rocket hisses out. For a heartbeat nothing happens. Then the mortar erupts in a perfect orange sphere. Secondary explosions cook off for 10 straight seconds, lighting the hillside like a flare that refuses to die. German infantry scatter from the burning wreck. Frank is already back at the bar, picking off the runners one by one. By 7 o'clock the snow is red for 50 yards in every direction. The 156th Panzer Grenadier Regiment has lost more men taking the single frozen pimple than in the entire dash across France 4 years earlier. And still the radios down in the American lines remain silent. No one is coming. Everyone assumes Hill 400 fell hours ago. Frank wipes his face with a sleeve that used to be olive drab and is now black and crimson, and starts counting the rounds he has left. 14 in the bar, 6 grenades, and 1 bayonet he hasn't needed yet. The next wave is already forming in the tree line. Day, when the world forgot Hill AM. The snow has turned to sleet that hisses on the hot barrel of the bar. Frank Kwiatek no longer feels his feet. He hasn't felt them for hours. He only knows they still work because every time he shifts position, they leave bloody prints on the concrete floor. The Germans have changed tactics. No more heroic charges. Now it's infiltration. Small teams in white smocks worming forward through the shell craters, trying to get close enough to toss satchel charges through the firing slit. 3 times they've made it to within 10 yards. 3 times Frank has greeted them with grenades pulled from dead men's belts, then finished the survivors with the bar held like a pistol. His voice is gone. He tries to shout defiance and only croaks, so he saves his breath for the next trigger pull. At 10:27 a German lieutenant actually makes it inside the bunker doorway, MP-40 blazing. Frank meets him with the bayonet he never thought he'd use. The fight lasts for seconds. The lieutenant falls backward into the snow with 20 inches of American steel in his chest and astonishment frozen on his face. Frank drags the body inside to block the doorway, then sits on it to reload. That's when he hears it, the low, beautiful growl of American engines far down the southern slope. Not just a platoon, an entire task force. C Company, 47th Infantry, plus tanks from the 740th Tank Battalion, roaring up the firebreak nobody thought they could reach. The Germans hear it too. For the first time in 18 hours the hillside goes absolutely still, as if the forest itself is holding its breath. Frank lifts his head. Through the sleet he sees gray helmets turning, white smocks hesitating. A German major on the reverse slope is screaming into a radio, voice cracking with panic. Frank Kwiatek, bloody, half-frozen, and very much alive, stands in the doorway of his ruined bunker with the last 20-round magazine in the bar. He raises the rifle above his head with both shaking arms and fires the entire magazine straight up into the low clouds. The message is simple, I'm still here. 11:03 a.m., December 7, 1940 for the 1st Sherman breaks through the tree line like a steel miracle. Its 76mm gun is already traversing, searching for targets, when the commander in the open hatch spots the lone figure standing in the doorway of the blasted bunker. He freezes. Every man in the task force freezes, because up there, silhouetted against the smoke and sleet, is one American sergeant covered in blood and frost, swaying on his feet, holding an empty bar above his head like a crucified scarecrow. Behind him, the hill is a slaughterhouse. German bodies lie in windrows, some still twitching. A burning mortar lights the scene in hellish orange. The snow for 50 yards around the bunker is churned into a pink slush that looks almost gentle until you realize what made it. The Sherman commander grabs his microphone and his voice cracks across the battalion net. Jesus Christ. There's still one of ours up there. No one speaks for 3 full seconds. Then every American weapon on the slope opens fire at once. Sherman cannons, .50 cals on the tanks, bars from the infantry, even a quad .50 half-track that somehow made it up the firebreak. The hillside erupts in fire and steel. The remaining Germans of the 156th Panzer Grenadier break and run. Some throw away rifles. Some just stand and raise their hands, too exhausted to care anymore. Frank Kwiatek watches them retreat through eyes he can barely keep open. He sees the first dose from C Company reach the wire, cutting it with trembling hands. He sees a lieutenant kid can't be more than 20 sprinting toward him through the smoke, screaming words Frank can't hear over the ringing in his ears. The lieutenant reaches the bunker doorway, grabs Frank by the shoulders, and tries to pull him down into cover. Frank resists for a second, confused, then realizes the battle is actually over. His knees buckle. The lieutenant catches him before he hits the ground. Frank's last clear memory is looking past the lieutenant's shoulder at the American flag someone has already tied to a shattered pine trunk, flapping stiff in the freezing wind. Then everything tilts sideways and the world goes warm for the first time in 18 hours. Later, medics will count 97 German dead around the bunker alone, one captured major who keeps repeating the same phrase in perfect English, Ein Mann, nur ein verdammter Mann, and one American technical sergeant with 14 bullet holes in his overcoat. none of which managed to find flesh. They will carry Frank Viokic downhill for 100 on a stretcher made from ponchos and rifle slings. Every man in the relief column stands at attention as he passes. No one cheers. No one needs to. The hill itself has already told the story.